Spotlight. Welcome to Spotlight ETSU. I'm your host, Carrie Oliveira. Today we'll be speaking with Martin Walters, a multi-Grammy award-winning audio engineer and producer. Martin has worked with many top artists over his 25-year career and engineered numerous Billboard charting and award-winning albums. Martin runs a full-service recording studio in Jonesboro and serves as an adjunct professor in the Department of Music and the Department of Communication RTVF program. Thank you for joining us, Martin.
Well, thanks for having me, Carrie.
I'm so excited to talk to you. I really love musical guests because I'm not, and so I find that fascinating. But I was looking at, so Miriam, our producer, sends me a prep of all the interviewees before I talk to them, and you're awesome!
Oh.
And so I'm really excited that you're on the show and that we have an opportunity to sort of share you with the campus, which I imagine that most of the campus doesn't know you exist. I know I didn't before earlier this semester, so I'm looking forward to sharing you with everybody. I'm so excited. So thanks a lot for being here. So you're a sound engineer.
Yes.
Like a professional one. And so you like do things with commercial music, like you're kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Grammys back here kind of suggest that to be the case. So how is it that you ended up at ETSU?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but I'll try to make it as short as possible.
Make it interesting.
Okay. I'm originally from Florida, and my parents lived in Florida, and when it came time for them to retire, they were trying to move someplace that was in between where my sister lives, which is in upstate New York, and where I lived, which was in Dallas, Texas at the time. And they decided to move to Johnson City, Tennessee.
Had they ever been here before?
They've just been kind of passing through.
Oh.
We used to vacation a lot in the Smoky Mountains and so on and so forth. We had some friends that lived near Boone. And,
oh, okay.
So, yeah, we've been up here a bunch of times, and they decided to retire to this area. And so we've been visiting them here for the last 18 years or so.
Oh.
And back in 2006, just due to the technology making it to where I was able to perform my functions as a mixer and studio engineer pretty much anywhere I wanted to be, my wife and I decided, well, let's get out of Texas, and we decided to move here. So we moved here in November of 2006 to Jonesboro.
And then how did you end up becoming part of the faculty here?
Actually, I got called that very same month that we moved here to play bass for the a production of the Nutcracker that was happening up in Kingsport.
Yeah.
And they knew about me. Some of the musicians around here knew about me because when I would come to visit in the past, you know, sometimes we'd stay for a week, 2 weeks, and I'd bring my bass and go around and jam with some people. And so I went and did the Nutcracker, and I met actually David Champulian, who was a trumpet player, and he asked me if I would be interested in teaching jazz bass for the music department.
Yeah.
And so I said sure, and that's pretty much how it started.
And then so how did we snag you over here? I mean, it makes sense that we would, seeing as how...
Well, one of my bass students that I had here, who's actually a professor here in the communication department,
Steve Marshall.
Told me about what was going on down here. I'd never, been down to radio, TV, film before.
Right.
And so I came down and had a look around and thought, wow, this is really cool.
This is cool.
I mean, this is a great, opportunity for students right here.
Right.
And so when it became available that they needed somebody to teach radio production and audio production, I applied, and they hired me to do it.
Imagine that. That's cool. Okay, so exactly what is sound engineering, or mixing, as it says on your Grammys back there? What exactly is that?
Well,
Make it as untechnical as possible.
Yeah, an engineer, that does sound engineering. There are lots of different types of sound engineers.
Well, what type are you?
But I'm a recording engineer mixer, so I'm pretty much the guy that works in a recording studio. So a band will come in, they will set up, I will mic everything, run it through a big mixer, record everything, track everything, and then when everybody's through recording and we have performances that we're happy with, then I will mix it, which is basically taking all those many tracks that we've recorded, applying EQ effects, sometimes a little bit of reverb or a little bit of editing or whatever, and mixing it all down to a 2-track stereo, which then ends up being a CD or a MP3 or something.
Oh. Okay, so you're the guy who allows me to listen to music in my car.
That's right.
All right, that's important and awesome. And apparently you're extremely good at this because you're a Grammy Award-winning mixer. And I thank you for bringing these because I'm so excited to be able to sit this close to a Grammy because I will never have this opportunity again in my life. So how is it that you came to, these in particular these are for working with jazz artists, yes?
Well, this one here is Ladysmith Black Mambazo, which is actually, they're not a jazz group. They're a traditional African vocal group. Ladysmith Black Mambazo, for those of you who don't know, kind of got their fame from being on Paul Simon's Graceland album.
Oh.
So they're all the background vocals that you hear on that record. And in fact, I think there were a few tunes that were actually co-written between Joseph Shabalala, who is the leader of Ladysmith, and Paul Simon.
Oh, nifty.
And in fact, they just recently went on tour again with Paul on a Graceland reunion tour. So that was really fun. But this was traditional world music,
okay.
This one here, and actually went to South Africa to record that and then brought it back to my studio to mix.
Ah.
And the next one is Terry Lynn Carrington, who is a pretty famous jazz drummer, and she did an album a couple years ago, I guess it's been about a year and a half, that featured basically some of the top women in jazz on this record. There's no men. I'm like the only man involved because I mixed it, I guess,
You're allowed to have something to do with it as long as you're not recording
it.
But,
it's an amazing album. Has like Dee Dee Bridgewater and Cassandra Wilson and Esperanza Spalding is on that one as well. It's a really good record.
I assume all those people are famous, but I don't listen to jazz. So
pretty famous in jazz circles, yes.
No idea. So Esperanza Spalding recently won, what was
Best
it?
New Artist.
Best New Artist, which that was the first time in the history of Grammys, right, that a jazz album won Best New Artist. That's kind of a big deal because I don't imagine that jazz necessarily has the same sort of pop appeal as other sorts of music does, and so that's incredibly impressive, I think. And so my question to you then is, how do you get to be a Grammy Award-winning mixer? Like, where is this your ability to like manipulate technology or hear music, or what makes you win a Grammy as opposed to, say, one of our RTVF students? What did you do that's so amazing?
Wow. You know, I don't really know. I think probably the best thing to start out with is, you know, I've been mixing albums for a long time, and I've been fortunate enough to work with some pretty major artists.
Right.
And the first time that I was ever nominated for a Grammy was back in 2005, and it was actually for Best Surround Sound Mix, which was also for a Ladysmith Black Mambazo album. At that time, that was the first year that they put surround sound back as a category in the Grammys.
So it had been and then was removed as a category.
I believe it was a category way back when they had quadraphonic sound, which was off the phonograph, which didn't last very long.
Oh, okay.
And then surround sound started picking up steam with DVD audio and you know, surround sound home theater systems for music. And so I got involved with Telarc, which is a record label out of Cleveland. And Telarc has always been known for being on the cutting edge of technology. Most of the albums that they have produced and done are always extremely high-end recordings.
Okay.
And So they had a new technology they were working with Sony called Super Audio CDs or SACDs,
Okay.
which used, instead of an encoding system for surround, it used basically six discrete tracks.
Okay.
So there was a left, center, right, left rear, right rear, and subwoofer.
Yes.
And so I went to Telart, looked at their system, and then I bought the stuff I needed to do to add to my current system I did, and I started doing a lot of surround mixes. And I guess the one I did for Ladysmith got submitted. It's basically, you have people who belong to NARAS, which is the National Association of Recording Arts and Sciences.
Yes.
Can submit recordings for everybody to vote on to see if it's going to
awesome enough.
become a nomination.
Right.
And so the one for Ladysmith Black Mambazo that I did back then got nominated for Best Surround. And then they invited me to go out to the NAMM show. In fact, you'll see some pictures later if we'll do this. And so that's how it got started.
Oh.
And so I got nominated a couple times for surround sound and then for some various things. And
then
these two happened to win. So.
Ta-da, magical. It's really funny that you mentioned it's the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences. And I was going to ask you if sound mixing is more art. Do you consider it more an art or a science? Because engineering I think of as being very sort of sciencey, problem-solving, linear kind of a thing. But you're dealing with an aesthetic product, so necessarily I would imagine there's some artistic element to it.
Yeah, it's definitely both.
Yes.
You know, it's a bit of both. And there's really, I think really to be a successful engineer, you have to be both. I think as far as recording engineering is concerned, when you're dealing with music, I think it's important that you are a musician first and an engineer mixer second.
Right.
I always advise students that want to do this that, you know, they really need to be able to read music, be able to look at a chart, because you'll have producers come in and they'll just throw a chart in front of you and expect that you're going to be able to know where you are while people are recording.
Right.
There are certainly engineers that lean more toward the technical side and more towards the artistic side. I think probably I'm definitely the one that leans towards the artistical side.
Right.
I mean, I know enough about the technical side. I always say just to be dangerous, you know, but
yes.
but the artistic side is probably, I would say, more my strong point, because when I'm mixing something, I always you know, I always mix it like I want to hear it. And I try to increase dynamics and, you know, bits in the performance that make the music have the maximum amount of impact and emotion on the listener.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome, which explains why, you're winning, and that you've worked with a whole bunch of people. I have a list here. I'll be honest, some of them I've never heard of. Because I'm not a music buff is partly what the problem is. Like, really, well, that's a long story. Suffice it to say, I do know some of these names. And so Patti LaBelle, what? You've worked with Patti LaBelle and Melissa Etheridge and Emmylou Harris and Sarah McLachlan, although I will say, those little poor pet commercials, I could do without those in my life.
She's amazing, though. I mean, Sarah McLachlan's amazing.
So we have some photos of you doing, I don't know what we have going on that we might be able to look at that give us some evidence of your awesomeness. And who do we have here?
Okay, well, that's Esperanza Spalding. And that,
how old is she?
Oh, now she's probably, you know, I hate to say, I'm just guessing. She's probably 24, 25.
Oh, my word. Can you imagine winning a Grammy at that young?
Yeah, that was actually taken at the studio. It was right outside Boston. At the time, she was an instructor at Berklee.
Oh, what?
At Berklee College of
Oh,
Music.
she's awesome.
And
hang out with her.
I was honored to be asked to go help produce and record and mix her very first record. And flew up to Boston. We had about, I think, 8-9 days to track this entire album.
And is that a particularly short period of time in which to track an entire album?
That's a pretty short period of time.
What's the average length of time it takes?
Oh, it can take months for most groups.
Oh, so that was super speedy.
Yeah, this particular album, it was really, that's one of the things I really liked about this album is that pretty much everything you hear on the album was performed live. I mean, there was very little overdubbing and really no editing per se.
She's just that good.
She did come down to Jonesboro, and we recorded some vocals there because it's difficult to try to record vocals at the same time that she's playing upright bass because one bleeds into the other too much.
Yes.
But that's pretty much the extent of it, and we did like 5-6 takes of each tune, just grabbed the one we liked the best and went with it. And I think it's a fantastic album.
Oh, that's so neat. I love, by the way, that you have a recording studio in your basement. I live in an apartment, but if I had a house, the only thing that would be in my basement would be dirt and probably rodents, and so that impresses me. Who is this?
Okay, well that was the year I was nominated for Surround Sound Mix, and they invited me to be on the sound table of Surround Sound mixer experts, and which just totally freaked me out because everybody you see here is like my heroes. I mean, they're like the top engineers in the world. That on the left is Ed Cherney, and then BT right next to me, and then Bob Clearmountain on the other side. And of course, Bob Clearmountain is totally one of my heroes. He did all of the Hall & Oates and John Cougar Mellencamp, and I mean, just a lot of really famous artists back in the 80s.
How mind-blowing is that your hero is now your colleague?
Yeah, I know. I mean,
right?
It's crazy.
That's
you know, I was
so cool.
It was quite an honor.
Like, how accomplished do you feel in your life and your experience as a result of like sitting there in that photo with those people, being considered an expert with people that?
I don't know. I mean, you know, I was scared to death when I went there, and they turned out to be the nicest guys you'd ever want to meet, and we just had a great time. And
oh, that's nice. We had a picture there just of you and
a
sombrero with some, I don't know what's going on.
Okay, well, here's one of the things that we've talked about, and here's one of the reasons why you don't see much going on in surround sound anymore is the lack of portability for surround sound. You know, everybody pretty much downloads everything from their iPods and has headphones that they listen to.
Right.
So I had this idea when we went out to the panel to come up with some way to make surround sound portable. And I actually showed this idea to the guys backstage, and it was called the Surround Sombrero.
As it would be.
And you just hook 4 speakers on either side, and you hook that up to a tip ring sleeve that goes in a special thing that you can hear the...
So we're going to see these on the market here before too long.
I don't think you'll ever see them, but they thought it was great, and they made me get up on stage and demonstrate how the whole thing worked.
Well, I think it was a good idea. I mean, if Google can make like what do they call them? Glasses, or like experience-enhancing glasses. It seems to me that your surround sombrero should be the next big thing.
And you can do it with any kind of hat, cowboy hats, you know,
whatever
wool caps,
suits you
whatever.
For the occasion. I don't know that you could do it with like a beanie necessarily.
You can come up with something, I'm sure.
It would have to be over. I'm going to be thinking about this all day to make that practical. This is then...
That is Ladysmith Black Mambazo right there, and that was actually recording at Appalachian State University back in 2006, I think.
Had they ever been to Appalachia before?
They have done concerts in the area before. They were actually doing a concert, I think, in Winston-Salem the night before, and they were on tour. We were trying to find a place where they were going to be near me, and I just happened to be visiting my folks at the time. And so I was looking for a studio, and I found that place in Boone at the school, and they have a very nice program there. And that album that we recorded there actually then got nominated for a Grammy the next year.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. And then this is...
Oh, that's Weird Al Yankovic.
I thought that was him.
Yeah, that's at on the Saturday night before they have the Grammys. They have a private party for all the nominees. And still, you know, most of the really big names don't go, just us peons. But he was there, so I took the opportunity to snap a quick picture.
And why wouldn't you? Because how many times you were going to meet Weird Al Yankovic?
We were both up for the same award, so that year. So that was,
really?
Yeah.
He's a sound engineer?
Well, sort of. I mean, his album was up for Best Surround Sound at the time.
I gotcha. So, talking about the portability of surround sound, wait, who's this?
Oh, that was Hugh Masekela. Hugh Masekela is a very famous South African trumpet player. And there's
Your,
kind of
your shirts are very tropical.
yeah, it's kind of a funny story. That was my studio in Dallas, and he came out to do some recording, and he wanted to know where I got my tropical shirt. Now, any of the students who know, I'm usually wearing a fairly colorful shirt around here. And there's a place called, what's the place? It's like Bud and Dave and Buds or something. I don't even remember the name of it, but it was you could buy these tropical shirts for like $8.
Oh.
So he wanted to go shopping. So we went out there, and he must have bought like 8, 9 of these shirts, and then he wore them all week. So we matched all week. Yeah, it was fun.
And by matching, you mean clashing?
Clashing, yeah.
I would guess. So I'm working on an independent study project with one of my undergraduate students, and he's interested in the impact of musical preference on romantic attraction, which is nothing at all you're interested in. But one of the things that we were doing in the course of this research was, I don't, like, again, I don't read anything about music, but one of the things, we looked at a few articles talking about like the social impact of music. And one of the things across, it was just a handful of articles I read, but the theme across them is that of all the mass media, music is the one that has probably the most noteworthy and pervasive impact on culture because of its portability, right? The alarm goes off, and then we get in our car, and we're walking around on campus, and all the time are we exposed to music. And so you then, as a sound engineer who is like laying tracks down on commercially distributed music, you have an impact on culture in a way that most other media productions do not. Have you ever thought about that?
I don't think I've thought about it so much as an engineer standpoint, definitely from an artist standpoint.
Right.
And you know, songwriters and people who are producing new music, for sure. You know, I'm just, you know, I consider myself more like a photographer or somebody who really just wants to capture somebody's art and present it in the best possible manner.
As opposed to you being a bassist as a musician and artist.
And I do that too. I mean, you know, so I'm kind of on both sides of it.
Do you think about what kind of cultural impact you want to have as an artist? So you play jazz mostly.
I play everything.
You play everything.
But I think, yeah, I mean, definitely, I think some artists do really think about having an impact or trying to make a statement or something. In their music, and I think that there are then other artists who just are driven to get that emotion or whatever it is they're trying to express out, and they don't really care how it affects other people.
And
I mean, they're not really thinking about that. They've just got to get it out.
I'm making the music more for me as opposed to an audience. Is that kind of what the
Yeah, I
difference
mean, for me, it's more that I'm not ever really, like in my music, I'm not trying to make a statement.
Do you write music?
So much. Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Oh yeah, you say, like everybody does it. No, not everybody writes music.
Oh no, I'm a very frustrated music writer. But
do you get musical writer's block?
No, I can write music pretty easy. It's lyrics where I probably get blocked. You know, I'm never happy with my lyrics, but I have had, you know, several songs I've written have been on the radio, and so it's pretty, pretty cool.
You say that so casually. I think songs are
no, well, I mean, the first song that I ever wrote was actually written for my wife. It was called Amy, and it was recorded by a saxophone player named Kenny Blake. He's from Pittsburgh. And the very first time I ever heard the song on the air was I was in JCPenney's at the mall trying on shoes, and it came over the loudspeaker system. And I just kind of stopped what I was doing, and then
wait, that sounds really familiar.
And the person helping me, you know, came up and goes, "Is that something wrong?" I go, "No, that's my song," you know. And she just rolled her eyes,
and she's like,
"Yeah, right." So.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
That's like a little kid.
So, okay, talking about you can be in JCPenney, so I could be in JCPenney or wherever, and then something comes over the speaker in the store, and that's you having impact on me consuming a cultural product. And so my question, I was thinking about this last night, is pitch correction, right? Auto-tuning or whatever else. And so if you could give me an estimate, what percentage of commercially produced albums anymore are auto-tuned or otherwise pitch corrected?
You mean like on the vocalist?
Yes.
I would say that there's pitch correction going on. Oh gosh, that would be a really hard one to say for sure, but I would guess just about everything.
All of them.
I'm not saying all of them, but I'm saying probably the vast majority. Yeah, because hardly anybody can sing as in tune as everything that you're hearing. I don't like it myself.
Right. And so I think that's really interesting is, I don't want to hear, like, don't tell me Adele has been pitch corrected, but she probably has, I'm sure.
I don't know.
I don't know. For the record, we don't know if Adele has been pitch corrected, but I wonder then the impact on that is like, are you compromising the integrity of the music then? Are you creating something that isn't real? I don't know. I wonder about that. And as an engineer, I wonder what your thoughts on are like the integrity of music.
Yeah, that's one that's up for discussion constantly. I think that with the onset of all the tools we have that we can use digitally now, it has really changed the playing field completely. Mm-hmm. I mean, of that there's no doubt.
Right.
You definitely don't have to have as much talent as you used to have
right.
to sound good, because you can use the technology we have to make you sound better. And I don't care for it myself that much, because I do think it's unfair personally to the consumer, mm-hmm. That what they're getting is not really always what that artist's true capabilities
right.
are. But that said, it's difficult not to do it if you're producing albums as an artist anymore, because everybody's doing it.
Right.
And so that's the problem that you're up against,
And I think probably too, part of the discussion is, if the product is aesthetically appealing, does it matter then that wasn't the artist singing it and it was a little bit edited and we spruced it up and it sounds pretty, so does it matter?
I think it's okay to use editing to get a product to be arranged, or let's just say editing a song. Okay, you're going to use some editing there to make the song's arrangement the best that it can possibly be.
Right.
A lot of times that editing will be, different takes of a guitar solo or something that you've put together to create a really nice flowing solo. Or, you might have 3 or 4 takes of a vocal and then put the best ones in there.
But it's always the product of what the musician created, right, when you're doing that.
But what I like, and I don't really mind that so much, because that's pretty standard procedure and has been for a long time.
Sure.
But what I want to strive for is that, yes, take the best takes from the artist, but then don't alter those takes.
Right.
So that way, at least, when you're listening to it, that, well, they actually sang that.
Yes.
And that's how it sounded when they sang that. Or the guitar player actually played that, and that's how it sounded when he played that. We didn't piece it together. So at least what we have here is we're presenting something that actually happened in history.
Yes.
This event actually happened. It wasn't just concocted.
Yes.
So that's where I'm at with it.
Well, I think, when you're talking about, the possibility of having a Grammy attached to, an album or whatever else as a vocalist, seems to me you have an obligation, ethically speaking, to present truthfully what your talent is, if mm-hmm. there's an mm-hmm. evaluation of that. Mm-hmm. So that's, I think, I was thinking about that last night, about what a sound engineer's philosophy is. A sound engineer who was a musician thought about that. So the question then I have for you is, my musical ability, my singing ability is approximately, I sound roughly like a cat being skinned alive. So can you make me sound like Adele? Because I would be okay with that.
No.
No? No?
No.
No?
I don't think so.
So you can't make me that much better?
I can't make anybody sound like Adele.
No.
Adele sounds like Adele.
Really? Maybe
yeah,
you're not as good as these Grammys suggest.
No. Why would you want to sound like her anyway? You should sound like you sound. That's what's
well,
important.
no, I shouldn't sound like I sound.
Well,
that's the
but
problem.
every artist, every vocalist has their own voice, their own instrument, and that's what's important.
That is a very good point, and that was extremely validating. And I want to thank you so much for joining us, Martin. We've been speaking today with Martin Walters about his award-winning career as an audio engineer. Please join us next time on Spotlight ETSU. That was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I'm not done. It's like I want to know more stuff. You really can't make me sound like Adele. Welcome to Spotlight ETSU.